Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, let's check out a basic principle in chess, which is how to improve the worst piece in the position. The first thing we want to do is identify which piece and then have some kind of plan so we can follow and have a better line in that position. This one is really easy, simple example. We're going to improve the knight. It's the worst piece in the position. If we map it out, it's only covering 3 squares. So you always want to put it on anywhere between these 4 central squares where it's going to have a lot more possibilities. Okay, so we're going to play knight c3. Let's say they go with bishop f6. Now we can put this knight on this outpost where it's going to be nearly impossible to remove for the rest of the game. Another easy example. Let's have another easy example. You are white and it's your move. What will be your worst placed piece and where does it belong? So here you always want to, if you're thinking about rook d1, you always want to improve your rooks and put them on the open files. If you move anything else, you move a minor pieces, in this case the knight, then they can just trade bishops, and after this they're gonna get a hold of the open file with the rook. So if you have the tempo to do that, you want to get the d file first, and then you can think about moving this knight later. But yeah, this move wouldn't be possible, and you can even put pressure. They're gonna have to move the knight, or let's say they move the king. You can even put pressure on the knight, they will lose the pawn. So it's more difficult to play for black. Okay, in this one we have more examples. You're white and it's your move. So what will be the worst placed piece and where does it belong? Now, it's not super clear what is the worst piece in the position because this knight is underdeveloped, the rook is stuck in the back. But now we can even move the knight, but really simple, and protecting the pawn, right? If we move anything else, let's say we move the bishop somewhere here, then we're blocking our knight. So yeah, this should be a no-brainer, and just go for this, protecting the pawn, developing the knight. Maybe later we can get the rook onto c1, just keep improving our pieces. And white should be slightly better, just because we have a slightly better pawn structure, pawn center here. As you might have noticed, we're going in levels of difficulty. So in this case, the bishop, if it was here, if we can transpose the bishop here to this square b2, it will be better, this open diagonal. So there's nothing we can do about it for now. The knight is in a natural square, so it's fine. Now the rooks belong to open files. And if the rook, sorry, let me rephrase this. If the bishop wasn't here guarding this pawn, probably we can improve this rook. So rook f1, something to have in mind. As well as improving this rook, maybe we can put it on the open file. So let's just move the queen first. That is the logical move here, rook to e2. And now we can get into these 2 open files. We can play rook e1 and rook d1. And we're also targeting this pawn on b5. So they're gonna have to make a move like this, and the game goes on. But yeah, we have improved the position so far. This is an endgame. We only have to figure out which piece to move between the rook and the king. But if we move the rook somewhere, then they might be able to push the pawn. But more importantly, they can activate the king. So this should be our priority in most endgames. So in this case, we can activate the king, because the rook is already fulfilling an important role of putting pressure on this pawn. So now let's attack the rook with our own king. And black should do the same. They can play now king f7, getting closer to the center. Now we can play king d4, easy plan. They have to retreat the rook, and we can put the rook on the open file, rook e2, and we can win this pawn. So that should be the clear plan for white in this type of endgames where there is only rook and king versus rook and king. And yeah, we just get active our king. Let's evaluate this position. Alright, so we always want to improve our pieces, finish our development. And one of the best moves in the position is going to be b3. If we look at this one, they have 5 pawns versus 6. So you can say that white has a slight advantage, but they have enough compensation for the extra pawn because they have better pieces, more activity and initiative. The only piece that is kind of strange and awkward is going to be this knight. So that's why the best move is this, just to play b3 to avoid this idea. Okay, but before we improve anything, maybe we can play something like bishop e3. So that will be fine. But the king is under pressure here. It's not completely safe. So we want to cancel first. So we cancel first and then we can continue with our development and everything is fine. This is going to be black the move. And here we have a bunch of bad pieces. I love this example. We have 4 pieces that are not looking great. We can even mention this queen. It hasn't been moved. So there is a difference between permanent bad pieces and temporary bad pieces. The problem with this bishop is we have this pawn structure. I'm gonna put it here. We have this dark square pawn structure. So I can never put my bishop here or in those 3 squares. Let's trade the bishop. That will be the worst piece. So if you have other ideas like this, it's fine, but no. Let's just trade bishops. And once we trade, we have improved our queen. We can bring the knight into the game, also releasing the bishop from this square. So everything will be better after we have solved this permanent weakness or this permanent bad piece. I love this example because it's simple and yet very educational. White seems to be slightly better. If we look at the pieces, everything looks great. And with black we have a permanent weakness or a weakness on a6. So maybe we can even push the pawn here. And if they go here, we're forced to trade. We're forced to trade pieces. And it's not going to result on a good trade. So we're just losing a pawn. We cannot play on this side of the board. They have the pawn majority. Okay, how do we fix our problems? The biggest problem is this knight. This is clearly our worst piece in this position. We cannot play here. That will just hand the knight. Okay, and it's disconnecting the 2 rooks. We have a very simple move. Feel free to pause the video now. Okay, we have g6, g6, and the plan is to play on the dark squares. We're gonna reroute the knight and put it on f5. Let's say white has this idea. So one line is going to be to go back. We're gonna revise this now. But let's say they go and they play with this idea of bishop to g5. So they don't want the knight to be here. They want to trade bishops first. Perfect. We can just retreat. And we still have a good squares for the knight. Which is going to be knight to f6. The game continues. Nothing, no problems for black. Let's go back to our line where the bishop is going to protect the pawn. So if they happen to move somewhere, we wouldn't be able to take this pawn, right? Okay, it's a good square for the bishop. Now let's go for this idea, knight to g7. We get this weird tempo loss. This is what happened in the game. They should have played immediately queen to h3, but okay, they go with this idea, which I would never understand. Queen e3, we can get this kind of outpost. It's not really an outpost because the knight can be kicked out. But we get a very beautiful square for the knight. Knight to f5. Queen h3 finally. Rook f to d8. And now they go with this strange move, rook d3. And okay, it's slightly better is to trade everything. Rook f to d8. And if they trade here, let's say here they go here. We can trade. And we have absolutely no problem. We can never lose with black in this position. So before it only happened in 4 moves, right? Always try to look for these structures where decide where to play. Dark squares, light squares, what is our weakness? and how to fix this weakness in this position, it was really simple, g6, right? This is going to be a common idea in this type of positions where the rook has ownership of the open file. Now, it looks like this knight is looking great, but they don't have many squares to go. That's kind of the problem. And if you're thinking, so the worst piece in the position is definitely the bishop, right? That's a no-brainer. But let's say we play something like bishop to d3. Now they have this tempo where they go to h6 and we would have to move away. So that loses the advantage. The computer is saying, okay, we have an advantage in this position. What is the move? We cannot really move the bishop directly. The common idea is going to be g3, but the idea is not g3. The idea is to attack the bishop, attack the rook with our bishop. That is the point. So let's say that the king moves, king goes to f8, and then we can hit the rook. Okay, so if the rook moves, we offer the trade, and we're completely winning with white. If you're wondering, let's just go back. If you're wondering, okay, we play g3, and we want to go here, but black is going to respond with this move, right? We saw earlier, h6. We still play bishop to h3, and now they have to move the rook. So once that happens, yeah, we can even move the bishop somewhere and still go for the same idea of trading rooks. So nothing to worry about there. And the bishop is in a much better diagonal now. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Check out the exclusive content I have for you. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.